Well, today we're on an amazing adventure. I've been looking forward to coming here for years and years and years. We're at Tazin Lake Lodge, and the reason for the big draw is giant lakers. I'm here with Bret Amundsen, and he hasn't had to wait quite as long as me. This guy has a lot of experience. He comes here year after year to fish this body of water.
Hey, there's a fish. Okay. What do we got?
Well, we're hooked up on the live target pretty early on, and he is angry. Ready?
Big fish.
Oh my God. We just caught Moby. First fish. Hell yeah. Woo! That's a good fish right there. That is a great way to start the trip off right there. 46-inch lake trout. Fought real hard.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've been coming up for about 8-9 years now, and once I came the first time, I had to come back. I mean, it's beautiful. There's big fish. The people here are great. What's not to love about it?
Oh man, that's right. It's just, you get up here, this scenery is absolutely like nothing I've ever seen before up here.
It's, you know, you think of Saskatchewan, a lot of people think of the southern prairies, but when you come up to northern Saskatchewan, it's a lot of lakes. And when you get right up by the territories here, you get these big, high, rocky hillsides and the trees, and of course, all those big fish in between them.
Yeah. Well, my knees are already shaking, and I haven't caught one, so let's
go.
get after it, huh? All right, buddy.
Tazin Lake is on the Alberta Northwest Territories border, you know, the very northwest corner of Saskatchewan. We're just above Lake Athabasca. For me, how I found out about it was back in 2005. They almost caught a world record here, and that's how I first heard about it. You know, it was on the radar at that time, and it didn't run for many years, and then Trevor and his partners bought it in 2011 and put it up for sale in 2018, and that's when I started talking to Trevor, and we became partners. Basically, we have everything here that they need for a fishing trip. You know, all the equipment, fully guided, full American plan. Get off the plane, you come the evening before, you have dinner, get acquainted with your guide, get into your cabins, and get ready for pretty much 5 full days of fishing.
So this time of year, the weed beds have really started to pop up around the lake, and the pike have moved out a little bit deeper. This point right here, the wind is blowing into it. There's a couple of weeds out a little bit deeper from the point. And the fish come in here and they go into those weed beds, they kind of work the shallows and then work down deeper into the weeds. So we're just gonna drift into them, put as many casts in as we can, and hopefully we find a big one in here. There's a fish. Staying down.
Yeah?
I didn't think it was going to be a super, but
it is staying down, isn't it?
It's staying down.
That's a nice fish.
That's a nice fish.
Oh, baby.
Right away. I think I'm 4 casts in right now, and just hooked up with a big fish. There we go. Woo! In the net.
Nice job.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Right away.
4th cast.
Come for the lake trout, stay for the pike.
Oh man, that is a solid fish right there.
Yeah.
Nice job, buddy. Oh,
There we go.
oh man, good job,
What
buddy.
do you think, huh?
That's
Tazin
how you
Lake pike.
start it.
Not bad at all right there. Get a quick measurement on him. Look at the belly. He's got a nice girth on him.
Oh man.
Fought hard, stayed down the whole way. Oh yeah. Gotta love the mean old pike. Look at that 41. So Tazin Lake has really gotten to be known for lake trout. You know, we've got really big lake trout here, and there's only so many places in the world you can go for big lake trout. But what people realize when they get here is we've got a lot of really good pike fishing too. And earlier in the season, when we open mid-June, that's pretty much right after the ice out. Like mid-June for us up here is kind of early spring, or spring anyway. And so you wait for those water temps to warm up a little bit. You get into some of those shallow spawning bays, and you can have just some amazing pike fishing. And a lot of it's sight fishing because our water's crystal clear here. So earlier in the year, we'll chase them in shallower, And then as the year progresses, they'll start to go out deeper as the water warms up, and the weed growth really starts to come in around that late July, early August, so you can start to target pike in deeper water in some of those deeper weed beds. So that's what we're doing here today, is trying to find some of that weed growth that's in a little bit deeper water, and that's where we've been finding the fish so far. So we got a couple more big ones to get. So I first came to Tazin Lake, I think it was 2016 was my first time up here, and I spent a week up at the lodge and on the lake, and it was pretty interesting because prior to that, I'd only caught one pike over that 40-inch mark, and in 7 days up here, I think I caught 8 or 9 over 40. All the big fish go back. We keep a couple small ones for shore lunch, so it really allows us to ensure that this is a big trophy fishery that's sustainable for years to come. And since then, I've seen multiple 50-inch pike get caught. In 2019, I caught my first 50-inch fish. I didn't even know 50-inch pike existed. Like, I couldn't believe it. It's like the stuff of fairy tales that there's northern pike that big.
They're hungry. They're taking it all the way. So now we've worked our way around the aquarium pretty good. We haven't had any big fish yet, but we've been catching a lot of little ones. But we've been saving one of the best spots of the bay for last. And while Trevor's dealing with a small pike off screen, I hook into one that doesn't feel very big at first, but as it gets closer to the boat, I realize it's a good fish.
Good pike. Big pike? It's good fish, buddy.
I've been going to Tazin for a while now and have caught plenty of 40-inch fish, so I wasn't too worked up about this one quite yet. In fact, I was one-handing it while I was getting the net ready. I was getting cameras turned on and this and that. Had I realized how big it was, I probably would have been a little more careful.
There we go. Nice one, buddy. Very nice.
Nice.
There you go, Brett. Hey, hey.
Woo.
That could be a new personal best there, Trevor.
You're sitting at 4.5, right?
4.5.5.
Oh, yeah, I bet you it is. And it had to wait till we come back to the aquarium to do it, Brett.
That's right.
Like to squeeze the deal together.
Up a little. Oh,
What?
Trevor, it's a 50-inch fish.
Come on.
50 inches.
Squeeze it tight and flat.
Yeah.
All the way down, flat.
There you go. One more quick one. Yeah. That's 50. Oh,
50 right on the nose, he said.
Woo!
That's a new personal best pike here for me. Huge fish here at Tazin Lake.
Oh,
it's a great fish. We're gonna get it back in the water. Tazin Lake Lodge.
Right on. Beauty, buddy.
There it was.
A better one?
Oh, I got one. Jeez.
No.
Well, I've actually never had shore dinner before, and we're having it tonight, so it's typically shore lunch, shore supper. Shore supper. Best eating fish in the North Country, in my opinion. Woo!
You know, we have shore lunches here for our guests, and this is kind of a typical shore lunch. We'll cook up some lake trout or pike, whichever the guest wants, along with some, we call them Tazin fries. They're potatoes cut and fried, but something about being at Tazin Lake makes them taste a little bit better. So we call them Tazin fries, and we've got some corn and beans there too, and something about shore lunch, everything tastes better, right? When it's fresh from the lake, the fish is fresh from the lake, you're sitting here, Canadian wilderness like this, there's just something about it. Makes it kind of special. And so a lot of times we have shore lunches. Sometimes guests want to just have sandwiches and do some fishing. But most of the time we like to sit out here, relax, and eat some fresh fish. And look at the view. Not bad.
Tazin Lake is world class for lake trout and for northern pike, but especially the lake trout. You know, it's a big, deep basin. big water body, big island in the middle. It helps protect it from the wind, but then also on top of it, you know, with the depths and the major rivers coming in, we have a huge lake trout population and a lot of big ones. You know, it's the only lake in Canada, or in Saskatchewan, sorry, that's never been commercially netted. And that really makes a big difference on the numbers of fish as well as the size of the fish. So a big fish in Tazin Lake is typically, you know, we start out 40-incher to us as a trophy-sized lake trout. Even the smaller ones fight like, you know, like mad little devils, but we have the potential to, you know, that world class once again where, you know, some of the fish we catch, not only a good length of high 40s and into the low 50s, but also really big girths, and that makes a huge difference on the weight size, you know. Back in 05, one was caught out of the lake that was 50.5 inches long, but it had a 35.5-inch girth. You know, and I call it pig with fins is what it looks like, and it was a Moby, you know, in that 70-pound class range or even a little bit higher, you know, going from the length and girth calculations. And then back in 19, we had another great big one like that with, you know, 47 inches with a 35-inch girth or something, you know. So there's a lot of potential in this water because of the girth and the food base to have, you know, to catch a lake trout that will smash the world record. On Tazin Lake, I believe our lake trout are quite old. You know, we're higher elevation than most of the other lakes around. As you can see when you fly in, you come across Lake Athabasca, and you know, we sit about 550 feet elevation higher. You come over that big ridge and come down onto the lake. And because of that, I believe our growing season is a little bit different, a little bit, you know, shorter. Things are colder, you know, because it's such a deep lake, it takes a long time to warm up. So, you know, our fish, I believe, are older. And you can see that from some of the fish that we catch in the pictures that, you know, a huge head, big body, but a huge head. And that usually is an indicator of an old fish. Yeah.
So Tazin Lake is really known for its big lake trout, and you can find them in a lot of different places. One of our most popular techniques is trolling deep water like we're doing here. And when you come out to do that from the lodge, you can hit a lot of spots along the way to fish for smaller lake trout or pike. And we got to hit some really cool pike spots on the way out here, had a lot of pike fishing. That was a lot of fun. But now it's time to go after the big girls.
You know, when you're coming on these big fly-in destination trips to Saskatchewan, a lot of these places are gonna have all the lures you need. That said, you know, we've been dreaming about coming to Tazin Lake for a long time, and there are big fish here, and so a handful of baits that we wanted to try. And we're talking like these big crankbaits. The other classics, you know, you'd have a spoon. If you got your favorite spoons, you know, bring those along. These soft plastic pre-rigged swim baits can be deadly, and also, you know, this T60 is just a legendary historical bait. That is an absolute great option, as are jigs. So there's a handful of baits that we've thrown in. A lot of these fly-in places as well, they only allow for 50 pounds. You really have to watch your weight when you're doing this, but hey, we suggest grabbing one of these little boxes right like this, filling it full of your favorite baits and bringing those along. You know, they could really produce a fish of a lifetime.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Woo,
Nice.
baby. Oh, man.
Is target lake trout, man. And obviously you can go after the big ones, but there are a lot of smaller and medium-sized lake trout in this lake as well. And we like, you know, we're kind of walleye. A lot of us are walleye guys, so we like to fish them like walleyes and jig for them, and, you know, anywhere from 10 to 60 feet of water. And so we got the live scope down right now, and Jeff worked this fish over for quite a while. Right. A second fish joined it there for a little bit, and finally he got this one to bite. And I'll tell you what, it's like walleye fishing on steroids is what a lot of people have described it as, because these fish fight a lot harder than walleyes. Now, I love my walleyes, don't get me wrong, but if you want a walleye fish but catch a fish that fights harder, come sharpshoot or jig for these lake trout up here at Tazin Lake Lodge.
It's so cool.
You need some pliers?
I do need the pliers, but isn't it? Sharpshooting these lakers, and that you're using, you know, like you said, we like to walleye fish, so this is a rod that I would use for walleye fishing. So when they hit, a fish like this hits on that type of gear, you got a handful.
It looked like he scared you for a little bit there.
Well, yeah, you know,
started running.
Right, you're out there trolling that bigger gear, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a whole different operation. But you get in here and you're using that lighter line, and whew, that's a fight. I thought I had a bigger fish on, so.
That's awesome. We'll put them back.
Put them back. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Burp shark.
You know, when you come on these fly-in adventures, you're really limited to weight and the amount of rods you can bring. So you really have to find the middle of the road, or what you're actually going to be doing, and bring a select few rods, maybe even 3 rods. And on this trip, we knew we were going to be trolling, so Trika makes a great rod. It's a 7.7, extra heavy, moderate action, and this rod we're pulling right now. I have a pound of weight on there along with a T60, so it's digging. This is a lot of pull. If I were to put on a lighter rod, you'd be getting a serious workout, but this rod handles that no problem. There's hardly, you know, there's a parabolic bend right there, handles this just perfect. I can work the bait. And what's cool about these rods is that they're super lightweight and sensitive. So when I'm holding the rod like this fishing, I can feel the throbbing of that lure. So that is one great option. Another one is I have this 7'3", and this is a medium heavy fast action. And so with this, we have a blade bait on right now. So Brett and I have been pulling off. We'll troll for a bit, we'll pull off. There's tons of trout around here, smaller fish, you know, like the 5 to 12 pounders. We'll go around, spot them, catch a few of those. And that works great for that. But they also have pike in this particular lake on Tazin. I'm talking really big pike. And so that actually will work great for that, for casting spoons, casting bucktails, casting jigs. So bam, there's 2 rods right there that'll get you in the game for a variety of fish, and that's really all you need on these flying adventures.
So the way we fish deep here is by using inline weights. So we'll run like a 65-pound braid as our main line. We'll tie on some big heavy-duty swivels, and then we'll run like banana weights, either 2 6 ounces, 2 8 ounces. I know some guys that were running 3 8 ounces last year, so your arms get a little sore when you drag that around for a while, but you want to get right down to the bottom and be in contact with it without having to put as much line out if you can. And from those weights then we'll run like a 50 or 60 pound fluorocarbon leader, and then we'll maybe run it 4 or 5 feet long, and then we'll have some sort of big aggressive bait most of the time down there, whether it's the big wobbly flatfish, or we'll use big Savage Gear burbits. I really like running the live target juvenile pike, some big baits. I felt that you can't go too big for these lake trout down there. At times I want something flashy like a half wave or some other type of big daredevil spoon, something like that. Bright colors. This water is crystal clear, but when you get down into that 80, 100 feet down there, sometimes having something flashy or something that glows can really trigger maybe a more passive fish to strike. So we like to troll with a big heavy weight, get down on the bottom, stay in contact with the bottom, and work around the structure, work up and down off the drop-offs, around the points and things like that until you find the fish that want to eat. Well, this is really our favorite way to target these big lake trout. We've got some really neat rocky structure. When you look at the hillsides of Tazin Lake, imagine that being underwater. So in a lot of places here around the lake, that's what it looks like underwater. So there's a lot of places for those fish to hide and ambush. So we like to troll around them, and we troll around them deep. You can see, even looking at those hills, some of those valleys between those big high hills are pretty deep, and that's just what it's like underwater. Tazin's just this huge, deep lake with really varied structure, lots of humps out there, some jaggedy edges and turns, and in spots there's a little bit of current rolling through and the bait kind of gathers there, and these big lake trout like to come in and feed on them. And we're looking for arcs on the graph and just working our way around the structures. It changes so much. We like to fish this way so that we can go up and down without having to use something like a downrigger where you're gonna stay at a constant weight. We just can't do that here. So we're gonna troll real slow. There's a fish on the bottom right there. You gotta get this one, Jeff. Over the years, I've come to find that most people do catch their personal best lake trout, and every year, I've been up here every year since. Every year I've caught, one that would be estimated to be in that 40 to 50 range, or even over 50 pounds. And every time I see it, it just blows me away that a lake can have that many opportunities for trophy fish. right? Like that many big fish are in this lake, and part of it is because of the low fishing pressure, the fact that it's a fish factory. Like it's got deep, deep water, it's got a huge forage base, and no real predation on those big fish. You got big pike and you got big lake trout, and they just roam around and do whatever they want in here. And they've been doing it for years. There's no commercial nets in here, so there's no reason that these fish can't live a long time. And we practice all catch and release on our big fish. We try to handle them real carefully. So all the big fish go back. We keep a couple small ones for shore lunch. So it really allows us to ensure that this is a big trophy fishery that's sustainable for years to come. And there's a lot of good places that you can fish in the world. To me, obviously, I'm pretty partial to this one because I got to be really good friends with Trevor and Barry, the owners. But to me, a place like this is a pretty special place. You don't see places like this in a lot of places. So I'm gonna come up here and stay up here every chance I get.